I think the problem with Leeds now is I think we're seeing a similar style of play, guys. I think we're seeing a similar style of play to what we saw at the beginning of the season. I think it's pretty obvious. I think anyone down there or anyone who is just watching at home like myself and maybe like a lot of you guys are seeing that what Leeds are doing now is you'll see us building out from the back, and you'll see us really, really, really heavy possession laden at the back. And the comparison tonight was Brentford. Brentford would keep the ball for a little bit, but it would be a section of maybe passing it from Van der Berg to Ethan Pinnock on the other side, obviously through Nathan Collins, Pinnock on the other side. Then they get it straight into their midfield. I'm not saying it worked, or they'd clip a ball over to the right-hand side to Kayode, or, they try to drill the ball to Shard. It's not to say they were doing it to good effect, because they weren't. Carl Darlow was barely troubled tonight. But the variance in how they were able to build up was stark contrast to what Leeds were doing, which with what Leeds were doing on the ball was short, 5 to 7 yard passes from side to side. We'd punch the ball in to Jayden Bogle. Jayden Bogle would then punch the ball in, well, to no one, maybe to Brendan Aronson on the overlap, but the ball kept breaking down there because there was no options. And it was very, very predictable. You got Brentford packing out those wing-back slots. You saw Henderson just tucking in and supporting Kayode. You'd have Jensen going and supporting Keane Lewis-Potter, because that's what Leeds were doing. We'd pass it along the back line, pass it back along the back line, pass it along the back line again, then back. Then we get it to the full-backs eventually. And it'd probably be recycled by James Justin, because you didn't see him hitting that byline once tonight, I don't think, especially in that second half. And then you'd see maybe Bogle just getting the ball and trying to lump it into the box. And that was the style of play tonight. That was what we're trying to do to break them down. And then you think a little bit centrally, well, what can we do? Well, there's no guile centrally with Leeds at the minute. There's no innovation because we don't have creative players on the pitch. You look at on the bench and you've got Al Tanaka, a creative player. You've got Facundo Buonanotte, who's not in the squad, who we were after in the summer, but now we've deemed him not good enough for even a place on the bench. Now, I'm not saying he's the solver of all problems, but what I am saying is if you're not creating things in open play, someone like him might help, especially to say we're after him in the summer, and then we got him in January, and now he's not in the squad. But yet Joel Peru's on the bench, who, let's effectively call it is, a spade, is pretty much surplus to requirements in the Premier League. So why wouldn't Facundo Buonanotte be on at least for someone like Peru on the bench when you have striker cover in Metcha, in Okafor, in Dominic Calvert-Lewin? I don't understand it. You've then got a situation as well where, that for me, the substitutions, so that's kind of how I'm looking at Leeds at the minute. And I thought this a couple of game weeks ago, but I didn't want to bring it up because I thought, and you do on this channel, when you dare to criticize, you get pulled down for it. And I understand that. I do get it to a certain level, but football is subjective, and it's all about critical thought and praise. And I feel like on this channel, we do it very well. We give praise out when it's due. But then you've got to be honest with some of what we're seeing at this moment in time. And this is a worrying trend right now. Leeds are risk averse, and that is what we were at the very beginning of the season. The style of football I thought of the Christmas period was not great to watch. But Leeds had punched the ball into Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We would surround Dominic Calvert-Lewin. There'd be players off Dominic Calvert-Lewin. We'd win the duels. All these things were happening, which were getting Leeds into games. And that meant maybe later on in the game, we could play Daniel Farke's natural style of football, which is playing out from the back. We might, get to a stage of which we can mix it up a little bit. But it feels like at this moment in time, we have gone right the way back to a style of play which doesn't benefit Leeds whatsoever, because we're not good enough in open play, because we don't have enough innovators on the pitch of which he likes. Because Nonto's not getting on the pitch. Tanaka's not really getting on the pitch. Okafor's obviously just come back from injury, but we know Brendan Aronson's going to be starting week in, week out. And Brendan Aronson is excellent at ball recoveries. He's excellent energy-wise, endeavour-wise, recovering the ball in spaces of which other players, Anton Stark, might be able to benefit from that. What Brendan Aronson isn't going to give you week in, week out in the Premier League, or even every other week in the Premier League, is a moment of magic or a little bit of, innovation. You look at Tanaka. Tanaka has that. He's not an out-and-out number 10, but then you've got Facundo Buonanotte. So you've got creative players who aren't in the squad at the minute, but the reason they're not in the squad is because Daniel Farke prefers conservation over risking it. But if you don't risk it, you're not going to get the reward. And you kind of saw to the back end of the game, the last sort of 10 minutes when Leeds' line was quite high, There's a couple of times where Sharda nearly got in, but Darlow did well just off his line. That was Leeds getting a little bit further up. But we could all see what wasn't happening with Leeds United in this game, right? We could all see it, couldn't we? We could all see that at halftime there needed to be changes. There needed to be a style rectified in terms of how we're playing. Are we going to be a little bit more direct? I didn't see us hitting one channel ball tonight. Strout tried at one point to Okafor, but it got blocked. We didn't hit one channel ball. Do you remember the ball would get to Pascal or it would get to Joe on the other side? We'd split the centre backs and then the balls would go into the channels. You'd have Dom diagonally running onto one. You'd have Okafor trying to get onto one as well. That's just not happening at this moment in time. We're not doing it because we're trying to play. We're trying to play through the lines all the time. There's no variance. And this is becoming easy to defend against and predictable. And once again, it comes back to the substitutions, and it will always be, for me, what Farke's weakest part of his management. It's the fact that on 45 minutes, we could see that things needed to change, right? If Leeds are trying to win this game, which I don't know if we tried to win that game, can you really win that game when everybody's fit? Everybody's fit that you've got, apart from Gabby Goodmanson, but that lineup starts. And I was relatively happy with it. The beautiful thing about the internet is you can go back and have a look. I'd have had Okafor instead of Metra, even though I do like Metra and DCL, but that's changed now because we never play a front two. Metra becomes a left winger, so DCL's still up there by himself. So at least I know that Okafor is almost like a left forward, so I know he's going to be closer to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And I know he's more direct and better as a left-sided player and has a really good dribble success rate this season. So I know that's going to be more profitable for Leeds United in those areas and us getting to the byline. But yeah, he waits and waits and waits, and then we get to the 65th minute, and then we see a change. And then we see Keane Lewis Potter going down with cramp. We then see Pinnock going down with cramp, and you see it doing Farke's nut on the sideline. But I think my frustration with it when it comes to Farke is you have this gap of 20 minutes of which we know, and we've seen this multiple times with Farke, where he'll make these 65 to 70 minute substitutes. Why don't you just do it before? Why don't you do it at half time? It's not going to change. Nothing's going to change in this in between because it's going to be the same style of football that we're playing and what they're playing. So nothing's going to change. So to change that, to enact difference, you need to bring game changers on. Players who are going to try create chances, players who are going to run at a player and create space, manipulate certain areas. You're going to have to do that. But if you don't do that, things will stay the same. And invariably, they did stay the same. Of course, they always do. Then the changes are made. I thought Tanaka, when he came on, was a breath of fresh air. I thought he had a really good effort on goal, which was blocked and went out for a corner. I thought to myself, that was actually a really good strike. And I thought, it was good that was blocked. I thought he was moving the ball a bit quicker when he was getting on. The crowd, we've missed him. I've missed him. I think the rotational aspect of someone like Al Tanaka has been a joke. I think it's been a joke. He's been completely frozen out of this lineup. And it was like seeing someone you've not seen in a while, in terms of like Premier League football. It's like, oh my God, he's been given at least more than however many minutes. But it's not just a look at that. I thought Nonto, potentially in the pockets today, could have made a difference in the half spaces, moving the ball quicker. But the problem is Leeds are just moving the ball so passively and slowly at the minute. So if you do that, it's very easy for Premier League sides to shift over with you. You go to the right, they'll move over to the right with you, or their left, they'll move over with you every single time. Spaces won't be curated because you've not got players with guile in between the lines, so nothing's going to happen. Now, you can't tell me from like a guile perspective, if you want to create chances, you haven't got Nonto who can invert, but over Aronson, Facundo Buonanotte, or even someone like Tanaka, who we used to see in the Championship quite regularly, get the ball on the half turn and ping the ball in immediately and quickly to channel regions or the centre forward, Joel Peru. So I just, it's very difficult to get my head around us trying to win games, but going into it with like a butter knife. And that's not disrespect to the players, but it's disrespect. I think what it is it's just a style of player that is good for certain things. If you want to go out and get a gritty draw at Palace, I actually think a lot of these players tonight would have worked and did work at Palace. If you want to go and get a gritty draw at Anfield, you bring Gruev in. The styles isn't to certain games, players that you want to play. But if you're trying to win a football match, you need players who can create chances from open play. You need players who will strike the ball from 25, 30 yards and actually be able to get it on target. You need players who can, have a really good pass accuracy and efficiency rate and are not sloppy on the ball, which I thought a lot of them were tonight. And I just don't understand why it takes so long to make those changes. So it feels like right now, with us anyway, and I don't know if you guys agree,